LSU on the road at Arkansas. It's an old SEC West showdown. We don't have divisions anymore, but these teams have played every single year for years and years and years now. And this is a bit of a rivalry game in some kind of sense. I can't remember what they call this rivalry game. Let me know in the comment section. There was a specific name for it, but this game has at times throughout the last 10 years or so been really, really, really good. And you can see here LSU favored by 2.5. This one's going down at 7 p.m. Eastern time, over under set at 55.5. The biggest question in this football game, without a doubt, is what is the status of Taylen Green? And on the LSU side of things, what's the status of all of the injured offensive players that LSU's got that went down either last week or in weeks prior? Chris Hilton, one of the what we thought was going to be one of the go-to wide receivers on this offense. Um, Kyron Lacey went down in that game against Ole Miss last week. Now he came back in and played some, but you still wonder about his ability to be 100% for this one. And there's a lot more to really analyze with these two teams. Uh, Arkansas with Jaquindon Jackson and Taylen Green being out, though, I think those are the two biggest questions in this football game, and less so Jaquindon Jackson, more so Taylen Green. Taylen Green's the straw that stirs the drink here, and you've got a really inexperienced guy behind him, and his name eludes me here in the live chat. If y'all throw it in there, what I can't remember the backup's name, but he just didn't look very good. I mean, he came in at the end of the Tennessee game. He did what he needed to do, but it was really the running game that was able to get Arkansas in a position to be able to win that football game against Tennessee. And Arkansas was able to do that. We talked about it all season, Mason. If Arkansas was going to be able to play some football without turning the ball over, then they were going to be really hard to beat. Well, lo and behold, they go play Tennessee, or they host Tennessee, I should say, and they don't turn the football over. And guess what? They win the ball game. And we're going to see as we look through the statistics, offensively and defensively for Arkansas, that they're not a bad football team. They're just not a bad football team at all. And in some cases, they're pretty doggone good. We'll go kind of offense first. We talked about Taylen Green when he's good to go. I can't imagine he'll be 100% for this game. Well, Mason, you can kind of talk about what you heard here in just a minute as far as Taylen Green. But if he's 80% or better, I still think that that's a better version, of quarterback than what you're going to get with the backup here. So I assume that we'll at least see Taylen Green try to go in this football game, and he's been really good this season. Coming over, adopting Bobby Petrino's system there at Arkansas. Bobby Petrino is a really good offensive mind, guys. He went to Texas A&M there for just a minute. Wasn't able to really implement his thoughts and processes on that offense at Texas A&M due to Jimbo Fisher's, hard head, I guess you could say, and what inevitably ended up getting Jimbo Fisher fired. But Bobby Petrino has full control over the offense for Arkansas, and he's done a really, really good job. Wide receivers have been, pretty decent at making plays. I wouldn't say like overly explosive, but pass plays of 20-plus yards this season. They've got 23 of them. That's good for 33rd in the country. So serviceable enough to be able to back defenses up and be able to run that zone read run game with Taylen Green, and it's been very effective. Rush yards per game, they're 33rd in the country at 199.5. Right around 200 yards a game is obviously really good as far as rushing the ball. Like I said, turnovers lost. They've lost 9 of them this season on offense there. That's 82nd in the country. They've allowed 14 sacks. That's 86 in the country. There's a lot of your issues with this offense and what you can really point to for the losses that are on the schedule so far this season for Arkansas. Defensively for Arkansas, let's go defense, and then we'll talk about LSU real quick. The defensive line for Arkansas is really good. I really like Landon Jackson there on the end. I like some of the pieces there on the interior, the other end there. I like them defensively, and they've been pretty doggone good against the rush. Is whenever their offense has been able to sustain drives and not put their defense out there to dry by turning the football over, which they've done a ton. So, some of the numbers are skewed, because of the turnovers for sure. But I think this is a good defensive line. They're not particularly deep. I think the linebacker room for the Arkansas Razorbacks has been a pleasant surprise. It was an area that everybody pretty much pointed to in the preseason and said, "Whoa, there's a massive deficiency here." And Xavier Sori has been able to come over from Georgia and I think play pretty well for the most part. And you've had some other guys be able to step up there. But really, where teams have been able to attack this Arkansas defense is through the air. And it just so happens that LSU is one of the best teams in the country as far as throwing the football. They're really, really good at it. And kind of like we talked about Georgia earlier in that matchup with Texas, LSU's kind of given up on running the football in a certain sense. And I'm not going to say fully given up, but you go look at some of their games over the last couple of weeks. You look at Ole Miss. I mean, they only ran the ball like less than 30 times the whole game. And a lot of teams in the country are 40 and even 50 times a game. So LSU has kind of adopted the same premise that Georgia has on offense, and that's we're going to throw to open up the run. And it's worked in some cases. If you look at yards per rush offensively, they're not terribly inefficient. 4.68 yards per rush. That's 64th in the country. That's not horrible. So I think it's a serviceable run game when they go to it, but more often than not, they're looking for yards in the passing game with this really awesome wide receiver core that's been a little bit banged up. Um, they're very explosive, Mason. They've hit the ball down the field over and over and over all season. We saw it last week. We saw the resilient effort from LSU against Ole Miss there at home. Brian Kelly stays undefeated there at Death Valley at night as the head coach of LSU. And that kind of brings me to my last point in this football game. And this game is so close, it's almost too close to call, just to be honest with you, brother. Um, and like I said, this all has to do with Taylen Green and his availability and his health in this situation. But LSU just came off a very emotional win last week. And college football bettors and people who have been watching college football for a long time, fans of the game, y'all all know what it means whenever your team comes off of an emotional victory like that. It seems like it's almost automatic. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just in my head. But it seems like teams coming off those emotional victories like that tend to come out and lay an egg. Here it is, LSU. No, no rest. Right? Got to go on the road to Arkansas. Arkansas fans are fired up for this one. It's going to be a packed crowd. It's going to be loud, and I'm really interested to see how LSU comes out as a football team. Are they going to be healthy enough to be able to, do what they do on offense? Defensively for LSU, I feel like this is a work in progress. This defense is still under construction, but if you look at some of the numbers for the LSU defense, look at that sacks this season, 21 sacks this season, and your star linebacker is out for the season. Weeks comes in and kind of fills that role, and he filled that role. I felt like really well last week. An emotional leader on the field, on the sideline. He was really, really all over the football field in that game. And honestly, I didn't see this defense really skip a beat without having Harold Perkins last week against what a lot of people would consider a really, really good offense in Ole Miss. So I think this defense and Blake Baker, who was brought in the offseason, I think they're headed in the right direction. I don't know that they've got all the right guys in all the right places at this point, but I think Blake Baker is taking lemons, making lemonade with it. And we talked about if LSU's offense last year had a defense that was just top half of the country, they could have competed for a national championship. Now the offense isn't as good this season as it was last year, I don't think, but this defense is certainly better. And don't look now, but LSU has got some momentum. If they don't trip and fall this weekend at Arkansas, they've got some momentum, and they are not out of it as far as the SEC and the college football playoff by any means. What do you think about this one, Mason?
Well, I think I like Arkansas, first of all. I do think that they're a good program. But when I look at the body of work, and you had a really good win against Tennessee. That game could have gone either way. But I look at that now, and we saw Tennessee struggle again last week, and I wonder how good of a win that really was for Arkansas. Um, when you're comparing them to an LSU, that is for Arkansas, it was a great win. But when you look at LSU now, who just beat Ole Miss, obviously that's a much better win. But how do we really measure the two teams against one another? Is kind of my question. How good is Arkansas? Is another big question for me. I like them defensively. I really like what they've done in the run game, but even on the back end, you look at TJ Metcalf. He's got 6 pass deflections and 3 interceptions on the year already. He's played phenomenal. We saw Danico Slaughter have a really good game against Tennessee. He's got 5 pass deflections himself. So they got a couple of playmakers on the back end, but going up against this LSU passing attack, I don't think that they're going to be able to stand up and make enough stops against Garrett Nussmeier. I saw Garrett Nussmeier against Ole Miss just come in and lay it all out on the table in that fourth quarter, and he looks like a quarterback that refuses to lose. It was really
Now he
impressive.
looks like a leader on that offense too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then Kyron Lacey steps up. He had kind of been MIA for a little bit. Aaron Anderson was getting a lot of those, a lot of the looks. And then Kyron Lacey comes back in and says, yeah, no, I'm still wide receiver 1 on this team, and looked the part. I mean, had a great game himself. So to me, looking at that side of the football, I think that LSU has a decided edge. Um, and then you see on your screen there, LSU's offense has only given up 2 sacks all season. That's a big part of Garrett Nussmeier's success. He's confident in the pocket, knowing that his guys are protecting him. And as good as Arkansas's pass rush defense has been, I don't think that they're good enough to go up against this LSU offensive line that I do still feel is absolutely top 5 in the country. When you look at the players on that team, obviously the bookend tackles are future first rounders more than likely. I really like the offensive line for LSU. Now, it hasn't led to a ton of rushing yards or anything like that, but against the pass, they're phenomenal. I don't know if Arkansas gets home on Garrett Nussmeier, and gets like 3 sacks in this game. I think that would change my opinion about some things. I just don't see it with this Arkansas team. On the other side of the football, I think that's probably the more interesting matchup, in my opinion. Is everybody's watching the LSU defense now? We saw what they did against Ole Miss. They had 6 sacks in that game. That's a big reason why LSU's defense has 21 sacks on the year. I mean, it's a huge reason why. They're 5th in the country now. 6 of those, like I said, came from last week's game against Ole Miss or offensive line that is just not good. They have not played good all year. That unit alone has cost Ole Miss 2 wins right now, in my opinion. They have been really, really bad. And with that, I don't think that LSU's defense comes out and gets 6 sacks against Arkansas's offensive line, which has been a lot better this year. Arkansas's offensive line last year looked a lot more like Ole Miss's offensive line this year, but Ole Miss's offensive line has been shored up a pretty good bit. But I do still have a lot more belief right now in LSU's defense, more belief than I've had in several years past. I think they're getting better, Mark. I really feel like this LSU defense has been playing with a little bit of fire, especially in the box. I mean, Whit Weeks last week, he had 18 tackles in one game against Ole Miss. He's one of the best in the country. He's got 59 tackles so far this year, and 6 tackles for a loss. For a middle linebacker, that is a lot of tackles for a loss. He's playing like one of the best linebackers in the country. I think that he could be in line for a Butkus Award if he keeps this up. Braden Swinson, which is a guy that I confused for Harold Perkins, he wears number 4 now apparently, and That used to be what Harold Perkins wears. So I was calling him Harold Perkins watching the game the whole time, not even realizing that Perkins was hurt, and that's just lame on my part. But him and Savion Jones coming off the edge, they're playing lights out. Braden Swenson's got 7 sacks already this year, eight and a half tackles for a loss. Savion Jones 4.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for a loss. So in the box they're playing really good, and then you look at their cornerbacks. Ashton Stamp, 6 pass deflections so far this year. Zy Alexander, 5 pass deflections and 2 interceptions this year. So I feel like as a complete unit, they're playing much better. Got to get a little bit better safety play. They've been beaten over the top a couple of times. But, I mean, considering where they were at last year, you definitely would take this LSU defense, as they are right now or as they have been playing. But to me, I feel like when I break this game down, and I love Armstrong as a receiver, I think that he is absolutely going to have a really good game. I just think that LSU has more playmakers than Arkansas right now. I think that Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson are one of the best duos at wide receiver in college football. I like Garrett Nussmeier and his ability to get them the football. Couple that with Taylen Green's injury status, which it sounds like he's going to play, but are they going to really let him loose? Are they going to let him run the football like he has in recent games and be effective in that sense? That gives me a little bit of pause. I like that they're coming off of a bye for Arkansas, that is. But to me, as I've kind of simmered on this and looked at it, I understand that there's a potential for a letdown game for LSU. I feel like they're also peaking right now and working towards the best version of themselves in college football. They're still 2-0 in the SEC and got everything to play for ahead of them. I think it's a bad timing to catch LSU right now. They're one of the hottest teams, I think, in the SEC, and I've got LSU winning this game. I think that they win and cover. I think that they win by about a touchdown or maybe even 10 points. But give me LSU in this football game. I feel pretty confident in that. Might even bet on it later this week, but we'll have to wait for Thursday's show for that.
Yeah, and Thursday's show, we have a betting show every single Thursday. It's called Between the Lines. LSU fans, Arkansas fans, we'd love to have you here on the First and Long College Football Show. We've got live shows that go on throughout the week. As far as a prediction for me on this football game, as we close this one out, I do think that LSU comes in a little bit lackadaisical in this one. I think they're a little bit banged up after what was a very physical football game and an emotionally draining one as well, as we talked about. I think that LSU, at least early on in this football game, is going to be asleep at the wheel. I think I could see some stalled drives. Anytime you're not able to run the football very well as a football team, you're going to have inconsistent drives because you lack the ability to get in front of the sticks on first and second down, and that's LSU to a T, in my opinion. Now, LSU could null and void that point by running the football with Durham here in this football game, but I don't think that that's really going to be the case, especially early on in the football game. I think a first half play. I think Arkansas probably goes to halftime with a lead in this football game. So maybe on Thursday I'll look at betting on the spread at least on the first half. If you guys bet on college football and you're not betting on first halves, then you're probably leaving money on the table because those are a lot of fun and seem to be, I think, in my opinion, a little easier to win and predict. The over/under is what I'm more interested in this football game. I'm more interested in that. I think it's going to be under. As I said, I think LSU struggles to sustain drives early in this football game. I think they figure it out in the second half, and I think this game's a pick 'em. I really do. Now, like I said, I think LSU makes their comeback here in the second half, and more than likely, I would think that they would win, and obviously Vegas agrees with that. But I do see a path in which Arkansas is able to win this football game, which makes me want to stay away from the spread in this one. Can't wait to see this one, 7 p.m. Eastern, SEC Showdown. Thank you all so much for watching.